This is Gemara Menachos Daf Tzadi Dalid, and we're holding on Tzadi Gimel Amid Beis towards the bottom, the last three lines of the Amid, as we wrap up the 10th Perek, the Siyata D'Shmaya. Always an exciting day. Every day we finish a Perek here together in Daf Yomi. Says the Mishnah, Chaymer B'Smicha Mib'Tnufa. Excuse me, where did our highlighter go? Smicha has a chumrah over tenufa, over waving. Ubetenufa mi besmicha. And then there's a chumrah of tenufa over smicha. So each one has a chumrah over the other. She'echan minif l'chol hachaverim. That one does tenufa for all of his friends. Ve'nechad saimech l'chol hachaverim. One cannot do smicha for all the partners. Tenufa is noyeg. Karbanis yachid ube karbanis at sibor, and as well by communal karbanis. Bechayim, there's a din of tenufa with the animal alive. Ube shchutim ube davar sheyesh by ruach hayim, davar sheyesh by ruach hayim. Masha ein kain bismicha, where these are not true by smicha. So chumrah is back and forth. Tenufa versus smicha. Says the Gemara. Let's understand the makar of the din of smicha, that one person cannot do smicha for everyone else. Says the Gemara, karbanoi. Says the pasuk is karban the rabbis. It comes to include kol balei karban the smicha, all the owners of a karban have a chiyav in smicha. Sheyachal, I would think v'ladinu. Uma tenufa shenisrabsa b'shchutin. When it comes to tenufa, which is nisraba b'shchutin, it's numerous with regard to once the animal is geshechted. Yet nismata b'chaburin, it's reduced with the partners, as Gemara is going to explain. Says Rashi, tenufa can only be done by one person. Smicha sheloy nisraba b'shchutin. The din of smicha, which is not numerous with regard to shchutin, einoi din, is it not pashish at tismayit v'chaburin, that should also be minimized? So the havamina would be that when it comes to smicha, it should not work for chaburim, for the multiple owners. Talmud loymar karbanoi l'rabbis kol bali karban l'smicha, that all the owners are included in the din of smicha. Frekti Gemara, you can learn it the other way. The same way we can learn it this way, says the Gemara, we can learn it the other way. Tisrabe tenufa bechaburin mikal v'chaymer. Why don't we say the same kal v'chaymer the other way and say that tenufa should be nisrabe bechaburin? That what? Uma smicha, when it comes to smicha, shaloi nisrabsa b'shchutin yet, nisraba b'chaburim, tenufa shenisraba b'shchutin ein odin, certainly shenisraba b'chaburin, certainly it should be nisraba b'chaburin. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you why we don't say this. Meaning, it's a gavaldika thought process, and the kal v'chaymer should your right work, but you know why not? Mishom deloy efsher. It's impossible, says the Gemara, to do tenufa in such a mannerism. Why? What are you going to do? Linfu kulam. Let all of them do tenufa b'adi adadi. Kavya chatzitza. It's chatzitza because each and every one is not going to be holding on to the carbon itself. Leinif l'hadir leinif. Let one of them do tenufa, then let the next one do tenufa. Leinif l'hadir leinif. Tenufa amarachmana v'lo tenufais, and multiple tenufas are not going to work, and therefore only one of the people is going to do the tenufa in such a carbon. Says the Gemara, usmicha b'shchutin lasa. The Mishnah indicated that there's no din of smicha once the animal is shechted. Ask the Gemara, why not? But tonight we learned in a Mishnah. We learned in a Mishnah, bizman she'kayin gadol roitzeh lehaktir, when the Kohen Gadol wants to burn a carbon. He goes up on a ramp. Vaskan b'minoi, when the Kohen Gadol wants to bring a carbon, there is a unique process. This is a Mishnah at the end of Talmud. He goes up the ramp and he got the skan on his right. He reaches halfway up the ramp. What happens? Achaz skan b'yaminoi. The skan holds on to his right hand, Veleu, and he helps him up, Veleu. The first Kohen hands over the Rosh and the Regel, and then they throw it onto the fire. The second Kohen, we have the whole procession of all the Kahanim for the carbon Talmud. So the second guy hands it to the first guy, and then what? Shtei yodayim, the two hands of the carbon. Nasal the Kohen gives it to the Kohen Gadol. Soimechlaim das smicha v'zarkon. Nishmat hasheni, the second guy disappears. V'halach lai v'kachem mashita lai, and that's how they did it. Sharkul evarim. Soimechaleim, the Kohen Gadol das smicha v'zarkon. He throws it on the mizbech. Bizmanchu writes out when the Kohen Gadol wants. Who soimech v'acherim zarkon? He can do the smicha, and other people can throw it on. So what do we see? We see that the Kohen Gadol is doing smicha. Where is the carbon? It's already shechted. And you told me there's no din of shechita on animal that's shechted. Amar Abaye has misham. Kevaydei the Kohen Gadol. The kavod of the Kohen Gadol allows it to break all rules. Usually there's no din of smicha once the animal is shechted. But over here, due to the kavod of the Kohen Gadol, we do have a din of shechita. Hadron aloch shtei midos. And now we go straight into the 11th perek. Now we're going to pivot. We're going to move away from quote-unquote regular menachos. And we're going to the shtei alechem and the lechem haponim. Says the Mishnah, shtei alechem nilushais achas are kneaded one by one, v'nefois, and are baked achas. Lechem haponim nilushais achas are needed one by one. The nefois, but the lechem haponim are different, and they are baked shaim ubitfos, and they're baked into a mold. You would make them. When you remove them from the oven, noistan litfos, they go into another mold. So that the breads do not become ruined, the breads do not break. Says the Gemara Menachos, immediately what is the makar that the shtei alechem lechem haponim are both niloishes kachas. Titanu rabbanon shnei esroinim yeh achalo echos. One loaf is 2 esroinim. Elami, this teaches us shani loishes achas that they're needed one by one. It's the same thing. How do we know by the lechem haponim? They're baked 2 at a time. Isam in the plural. I would think Avshtei Alechem is the same thing. Kain Tamalayim or Isam. Hi Isam. I affect. Hi Isam as the Gemara ha affecte. But we already used this for the halacha that lechem haponim are baked 2 at a time. So how could it also come to exclude the shtei alechem? Says the Gemara, Im kein le'imakra v'samtem, my v'samta, isam shmas mina tarti, we learn 2 halachas. And therefore the extra drasha teaches us shmas mina tarti. Says the Gemara, the end of the Mishnah taught us that the lechem haponim were placed in a mold, Tanarabana, 5 lines in the bottom. There were 3 types of molds. They put in the mold while it was a dough. And there was a mold in the oven. Right then, when you take it out, on the 3rd mold, so that it doesn't get ruined. Says the Gemara of Lahadfas Kamo. Why doesn't it go back into the first mold? You need it, you put it into mold. You put it in the oven, you take it out. So when you take it out, why don't you just put it back in your first mold? Says Gemara, of course, when you bake something, it expands. and therefore it will not fit into the original mold. Says the Gemara, Itmar in the last line. Lechem aponim ketzan oisa when they make the lechem aponim. Reb Chanina oimer, as we turn over to Sadi Dalit Amid Beis. We're gonna have to see some pictures over here. As you see, Rashi already has some pictures. So it says Rav Chanina, Kimin Teva Prusa, Rav Yechlan Amar, Kimin Sfina Roikades. So we have two different shitais over here. What do these pictures a little blurry over here, but okay, I guess we'll have to give some pictures nonetheless. 1 second. We're trying to pull up the article over here. Some nice pictures. I mean, the truth is, you see in Rashi already. What do you see in Rashi? You see that it's really, what's the machlekes? The machlekes is it more of a U-shaped? That's going to be Rav Chanina's opinion, that it's like an open box. What's Rav Yechlan's opinion? That it's Kimin, Sfina Roikades. It's more like a fast sheep. So, which, as you see over here, it's more going to be pointed at the bottom. So we have two shitais, how they made the lechem aponim. Says the Gemara, with that in mind, Bishlam, I understand. Leman Tamar. Bishlam Leman Tamar. Teva Prusa. According to Rabbi Yechanan, says the Gemara, that I can understand. What do I understand? 1 second. Let's first pull up the pictures over here. Okay, Baruch Hashem, this worked. So this is the first opinion. This is Rav Chanina. You see it's Kimin Tevas Perusa, similar to the U that we saw in the Rashi. That's the first opinion. The second opinion that you see right now on your screen is Rav Yochanan Kimin Sfina Roikedes, this fast boat. So two different opinions. So says the Gemara, I understand according to opinion says Kevin Bruce, I know that this makes sense where the spoons rested on the flat bottom part of the loaf because it's flat. Where would the spoons rest? There's no level area in which the spoons could rest upon. So says the Gemara, Makaim Avilu. You know what they do? They would create a flat place, and these flat places would serve as a resting place for the spoons. So I understand where the rods rested. Says the Gemara Nachamol, where they rest, they make protrusions at the end in which they would place it. Meaning, obviously, if it's flatter, it's easier to rest things. In other opinion, have to be more inventive how to get them there. Finally, I understand now where the props would support the bread. Ella lemandam sinifim lalechem lemandam kvinsvina reikades hechesam chlosiv lalechem. Says the Gemara, Dagalu me'agel. They what? They were shaped in a semicircle, and they went underneath the loaves. Rashi over here, if you see on the side, Rashi has two different pictures how the breads were held inside the shulchan. And you can see how, according to the first opinion, Teva Prusa, it's easier that there's simple resting places for the loaves, whereas according to the second opinion, they more have to cut into these grooves in the side in order to have areas for them to rest. Back into the Gemara, Bish Lama, another kasha. Bish Lama Mandamar Kimin, Sfina Reikedes. Now we flip the other way. According to the second opinion, Hainu, Debin and Snifim. Now I understand why there were Snifim in the first place. Mandamar Kimin Teva Perusa, Snifim Lamali. Why do you need Snifim? Each bread should be able to just stack one on top of the other. So what do you need the supports on the sides? Says the Gemara, you're right, but Agav Yukra de Lechem Talach. We're afraid that it's going to break. It's a heavy bread. It's going to break down the walls of the bread underneath it. Bishlamad Damar Kminsvina Rekedes, and even Al Gabi Shulchan Munachim. I understand they are placed upon the table. Elaman Damar Kmiteva Brusa Snifin Echa Manachlu. Where were the props placed? Ara Manachlu. They placed on the ground. Says the Gemara in Damar Avamar Marmala Devi Aimer Kinmin Svina Rekedes, Snifin Al Gabi Shulchan Munachim, Devi Aimer Kinin Teva Brusa, Stephen Al Gabi Karka Munachim. So we see the two opinions. Each one is going to have where it's situated, I should say, on top of the shulchan. And again, the Gemara going back and forth in classical sense, figuring out. I apologize, I'm trying to get the picture to pop up and it's not working. Okay, hopefully it's going to come up in a second. Says the Gemara, now we understand each opinion where they're situated on the shulchan. Okay, there is the picture. Is there a picture? Yes, there's the picture. As you can see over here, the necessity of the snifim on the side, if it's the second shita, you see how it's going to be there, sort of cupping underneath to hold up the breads. And again, the Gemara grappling with each shita, how it's going to be situated. We're going to stop over here. We'll pick it up from 3 lines to the bottom of the next year. B'siyata dishmai.